So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
How many of you overuse emojis? That's what I want to know. Actually, go ahead and overuse some emojis right now in the comments of this video. Just overuse them. Whatever you're feeling, whatever's going on with you, just start emojiing up the comments right now. Maybe it's your favorite emoji. Maybe it's the least favorite emoji. I don't care. Throw a poop emoji in there because that's always fun, right? Isn't it? We all have a friend who overuses emojis. If you have a friend, that overuses emojis, just give a thumbs up, even right now, in the comments or something. Did you know that 1 in 5 texts now have an emoji? I had no idea. We're talking like 20% of all texts, all the multi-billions and probably trillions of texts out there, 1 in 5 have an emoji now. Who would have thought like 5 years ago that would be the case? Maybe you have a friend who they've moved on from emojis and they just send you GIFs all the time. Or is it GIF? I don't know. Is it GIF? GIF or GIF. Some people say GIF and they're like, I want it to be GIF. And some people say GIF. But, maybe they're always sending you 2-second clips of Beyonce instead of actually communicating themselves, to you. But when it comes to text, I get it. Because emojis can be really fun. And at the same time, I gotta be honest, emojis and GIFs can really help you out, right? They can help out when you're trying to express what you're really feeling or what you really want to do inside. And here's what I mean, okay? There's a laughing face emoji. Sometimes when, you can't put too many LOLs in something, it just is obnoxious. So you just want to throw the laughing face emoji out there. And that's a fun one, right? I mean, that's one that I'll actually use. I don't use a ton of emojis, but the laughing face emoji, kind of fun. The other one is, maybe you're overly sensitive to smells. And do you ever feel like texting this one? It's the green face emoji. Maybe you just changed a diaper and of like a sibling or a nephew or niece, and so you have to insert this green face emoji. Or maybe your weird history teacher just took off their shoes. Or someone in gym just took off their shoes. Of course, no, you're not in gym right now because you're quarantining. But maybe some smells are just too gross to like express, so you have to express it in the green face. And then there's the sad face with the tear streaming down, right? Like, whether you're sad about something really, really heavy, or you've just been bummed out because your gas station that you go to isn't serving those sweet taco corn dog combo things, right? And so you post that up, you send a text, and you got the little sad face emoji. The beauty of emojis are they help us talk about how we feel without having to use words, right? I mean, for a lot of us guys, that's helpful because we may not be so good with the words and with the feelings, but we can throw out emojis. And something that I really love to send out now, and in our staff, we've been having a lot of fun with our with a contest when we put in our month-end reports, and so we've been really having a lot of fun with GIFs. And so here's a few of my favorite ones that I like to use. And of course, I'm an Office fan, so we've got Michael Scott, the no, no, no. If you've seen this one, just give me like, a high five or something. But here's a favorite one right here, the Michael Scott, no, no, no. And then there's the other Michael Scott one. Sometimes this GIF just says everything. You don't even, all you have to do is send this and people know exactly what you mean, right? I mean, this is one of my favorites, that Michael Scott. And then when you're really excited about something, this is one of my favorites, the screaming emoji. This guy right here. I love it, right? This guy's awesome. There are a few emojis and there's a few GIFs that we may use more often than others, and some that we don't use very often, because when we do, they say a lot. And as we set the stage for what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to use a few of these emojis as kind of examples of what we may not use as often. Here's the face with no mouth. When you just have no words to say. Something surprises you, it shocks you, or something like that. And oh my goodness, the landscaping guys are coming. It is 7:22 and we got landscaping out there. So if you hear the mowers going out there, I'm sorry. They've never come at this time of night. I don't know what they're doing here. Okay.
That's a perfect emoji for that.
But is someone put an emoji, a perfect emoji for this right now? The fact that we have people coming to mow at 7:22 at night. I don't understand what's going on. Give me an emoji for that. But here's another one. As we set the stage for what we're talking about today, the face with an open mouth, kind of that surprised look. Or you have a face with open mouth and raised eyebrows emoji, right? This is a good one when you're shocked, when you're in awe. And we've all had those moments where you just have no words, right? And you say, either it's something that came up, someone said something, or happened during quarantine, or you saw a post and you're like, I have no words for this right now. And so you use emojis like these. And maybe the first one is the best, the face without a mouth, because it represents those moments when you have no words to say. It's when we hear something or something happens that we just can't make sense of. And I'd venture to say that most of the time, these shock emojis are sent along with text that report something that was shocking in a bad way. You're usually not sending them when something happens in a good way, because then you go back to the screaming guy one or a hand clap one, right? And that, my friends, is what we're talking about today. When something that catches us off guard and hits us out of nowhere. Have you experienced anything like that in your life? The answer better be yes, because we're living in COVID-19 time. We've never lived in times like this. You are living out history. People talked about the 1918 Spanish flu. Well, 70 years from now, when you're talking to your grandkids, you'll be talking about COVID-19 and coronavirus time, all right? That's what is going to be happening. And have you ever had something that just really shocked your world? And, maybe the quarantining and stay at home safe, whatever, set that aside. Have you had something that caught you off guard, that made your life feel uncertain, or caused you a lot of hurt? Could have been something someone said, something that was done to you. Maybe it was something you caused. But maybe you felt this way when you got bad news about a parent and that they were getting a divorce. And hey, I thought they were fighting a little bit, but I never knew it was that bad. Or it wasn't bad news, but gosh, your stepmom found out she was pregnant, and now you're going to have a little sibling that you're like, I'm going to have to share a room with, or I'm going to have to, help raise this child. I remember when I was an intern, someone that was in our small group was 18 years old, getting ready to graduate, and their mom got pregnant. Like 18 years later, and he's like, I've got to share a room now with a baby. Like, who wanted to do that as a senior? But maybe a friend had something mean to say about you, and they accidentally sent that text to you. Have you ever been a victim of that? You knew as soon as you got it, they meant to send it to someone else, but you got it, right? Or maybe you felt this way when you experienced an injury at the beginning of a season, or you got dumped. Maybe you had a breakup with somebody and they felt relieved, and you were like, wait, what? I was about to dump you, and now you're relieved? Right? Now this list could go on, and we could give examples of when your world got rocked, of some news or new circumstances that happened to you. And if you haven't experienced it yet, a time will come when you will feel shock or in awe or a circumstance that comes out of left field. What about some quarantine GIFs? Here's a few that I found. These are some of the top. If you search the most popular GIFs during quarantine, these are some of the top. All right. This one right here, hello quarantine life. You know, this guy, I love this guy. This is one of the most popular ones. And then this one makes me feel, this one basically depicts how I feel. I'm losing my mind, right? Anybody ever feel this way right now during quarantine? And then some more GIFs. I'll bet this one describes a lot of you, which is why it's one of the most popular GIFs right now on the interwebs, is me during quarantine, right? You just rotate from thing to thing to thing all around on your bed or on the couch. You're just rotating from thing to thing to thing, and you're like, I got nothing to do. But the thing about these shockingly painful moments is that they hit us out of nowhere. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to post in the comments, post a couple emojis. Just post some emojis on how COVID-19 quarantine time has made you feel. I know I've asked a lot of you this, how it makes you feel, and you know, I was asking Tyler how this has affected him, but I want you to do it in emojis now. So show how you felt during COVID-19 in emojis. It can be a long list of emojis, and by the way, the game at the end is going to be something fun we're doing with emojis, but it could be a long list. Maybe it's a bunch of different feelings. You've gone from one to another to another to another. And because these shockingly painful moments hit us out of nowhere, it's difficult for us to know how they'll make us feel, right? And let me see. I think some of you guys are posting some emojis. I love to see you guys posting these in the comments. But because of these shockingly painful moments, and when they hit us out of nowhere, it's difficult to know how to respond to these like moments, right? We respond in three ways. Sometimes we surprise ourselves by how we handle it. I know when big things have happened in my life, when the building burnt down that's right behind us, it's an empty pad. When Building 21, my organization's building, burnt to the ground, the first month I was surprised on how I handled that. And then, I got into different emotions and different feelings. And maybe during COVID-19 here, you've been surprised on how you've handled it. But I think we've all gone through these three emotions. Some of us, we think, hey, wow, I figured news like this would take me down, but I'm doing okay. So sometimes we feel surprised by how we've handled it, but sometimes we surprise ourselves by how much it tears us apart. So it may surprise us on how we handled it, like in a good way, and sometimes we surprise ourselves on how much it tears us apart. I remember sitting in this office, looking out the window, and just thinking, what in the world am I going to do with an organization? I've got a building in shambles, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. And we surprise ourselves on how much it tears us apart. I know I've had instances with leaders, with pastors, that I've been surprised at how much that relationship, when it fell apart, or when someone stabbed me in the back, how much it tore me apart. I thought I was rock solid. I thought I was, I could withstand anything. And man, I was surprised at how much it tore me apart. Or sometimes we feel closer to God when stuff rocks us, but other times we feel like we're farther away. And other times we wonder where God is at all. So we go through these emotions. We sometimes surprise ourselves on how we handle it. We sometimes surprise ourselves on how much it tears us apart. And then sometimes we feel closer to God, or we wonder where God is at all. And I think we've all gone through these three emotions during this quarantine, during COVID-19. If you have, all right, just say, I have. If you've gone through any one of these, just say, me or me too. Type it, put it in the comments that I have, or I've gone through one of them. Because we're all wired differently. You're wired differently than the person next to you, than your parent, than your sibling. But that doesn't change the fact that hurt hurts. When you hurt somebody, it hurts. When you get hurt hurts. And when life hurts, we all find ourselves wondering, what are we going to do next? When life hurts, we wonder, what are we going to do next? That's why we're doing this series. What to do when you don't know what to do. For real. Because we all encounter those emoji moments. And so did Joseph. So we're going to be talking about Joseph throughout this entire series. This is going to go all the way through June. But we began this series by talking about him last week, and AJ did a great job. He, in a story that describes, and this is what basically, this emoji describes probably how Joseph felt right here. It's the face with a straight mouth. Probably, like shock and wonder and just straight mouth, like what's going on in my world. Joseph is one of the most famous people in the Old Testament and probably in the whole Bible. He had some family drama. So if you've had family drama, you're in good company. So did Joseph. But he played a part in his family drama. He was his dad's favorite child, and he had special treatment given to him. He was the 11th of 12 boys, and his dad even gave him like a robe that was special just for him. I mean, have you ever had a sibling that has gotten like a gift? And no other sibling has ever gotten something like that before, and you can just tell that sibling is your parent's favorite. See, Joseph seemed to have a hard time picking up on social cues, and so he had these dreams, and then he started sharing these dreams with his family. This is found in Genesis 37 and through 39. I'm not going to read all those verses and all those chapters, but you can go back and read that in Genesis 37 and probably Genesis 36. But he started having dreams about how his family was going to bow down to him. First it was his brothers, and then it was like his entire family, his parents too. And you can imagine how well that went over. Like, for real. Imagine that you went to your siblings right now and were like, yo, one day you're going to all bow down to me. That's going to happen, right? They'd probably not be so happy with you. So how did they respond? How did his siblings respond? How did his parents, his brothers weren't okay with it. His dad was not okay with it. This is how they respond. Check it out. In Genesis 37, verse 18. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. I mean, wow, that went from 0 to 100 in like seconds. And then in verse 19, here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. Come now, let's kill him and throw him in one of those cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. So despite his anger toward Joseph, one of his brothers, the eldest brother, thank God for older brothers, all right? The oldest brother. Okay, he had a little sense of wisdom and pride. He actually has a little conscience. And so in verse 21 it says, when Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him, that's Joseph, from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern. That's a well, if you're wondering what a cistern is. It's an empty well. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him and then take him back to his father. So thank goodness for Reuben. He convinced his brothers to throw Joseph in a well instead of going all homicidal on him. He even planned to come back and rescue Joseph. The brothers, then they listened to Reuben, and when Joseph approached, they ripped off that special coat, that special robe that his dad had made, that he'd only given to Joseph. And this is probably the text that Joseph would have sent. When your brothers tear up your jacket and throw you in a well, and then insert that shocked face emoji. Here it is. We'll just insert that shock. This is probably the emoji that he would have sent to one of his buddies or his friends if Joseph had a cell phone at the time. But see, now his brothers aren't done with him yet. They then notice a caravan coming, and they're approaching. So Judah, he was like the fourth youngest brother, or fourth oldest brother, he suggests that they sell Joseph to these traders. After all, selling Joseph to a group of people is so much better, and making him a slave is so much better than killing him, right? For real. So that's what they do. And they dip Joseph's coat in some blood of an animal, and they take it to their father. And look at what they tell their father. In Genesis 37:32, they took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it, whether it's your son's robe." The last line tells us everything we need to know about this situation. The brothers, obviously they knew this coat belonged to Joseph, but they brought it to their dad, and notice how they talked about Joseph. Okay? They didn't call Joseph's robe our brother's robe. They said your son's robe. Mm-hmm. They didn't even want to claim him as a brother. That's how angry, how upset they were. What a bunch of jealous jerks. Can I say that? You know, jealous jerks. So here, if Joseph was going to send out a text, this is what it would have been. Good news, out of the well, but bad news, they sold me, like actually sold. And then insert shocked face emoji once again. And here, just insert, a shocked face emoji right now in the comments. Go ahead, just type in a shocked face emoji. Now, I might be, a little lighthearted about this, but there's nothing lighthearted about this situation. We cannot simply, we can't imagine the fear, the despair, the uncertainty, the anger, the hurt that Joseph felt. Do any of those resonate with you right now? The fear, the despair, the uncertainty, the anger, the hurt that Joseph felt. He was betrayed by his own flesh and blood, sold into real slavery. And the message that his brothers sent was loud and clear. Hey, we're better off without you. I mean, what would you even do if you were Joseph? How do you get yourself unsold? This was clearly a what to do when you don't know what to do moment. This was Joseph's. What to do when you don't know what to do. And, our stories, your story, it's different than Joseph's. I get it. But we all experience pain of some kind in our life. We'll all have scary, painful, dangerous, hurtful moments that catch us off guard, won't we? We all have moments when life doesn't make sense and we have no words to process the emotions. We have no words to process what's actually happening. So unfortunately for Joseph, he had more shocking moments in the future. We're going to get into those in the coming weeks. But I want to highlight 5 words that summed up the historical account of Joseph's life. This shows something amazing in Genesis 39:1. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian, was one of Pharaoh's officials. The captain of the guard bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. Now, while they didn't, keep him from getting thrown into a pit, and they didn't keep him from getting sold, these 5 words made all the difference to Joseph. And here they are. It's found in Genesis 39:2. The Lord was with Joseph. I'll say that again. That's the 5 words. The Lord was with Joseph. And the rest of that verse says, Joseph, so he prospered, and he lived in the house of the Egyptian master. Joseph didn't have a lot going on for him in the pit. And then he had even less going on for him afterward. You might feel like you have less going on for you now, or you've been in a pit, or you've had times where you've been in a pit. But when Joseph was in despair and wondering how life would turn out, he could rely on this single truth, that God was with him. That's the truth. This truth didn't change the reality of Joseph's situation, but it was better than being alone. This truth, it's not going to change the reality of the situation that you and I find ourselves in right now on May 27th. This truth didn't mean that Joseph could see where the story was going. Hey, I don't know where this story is going. I don't know where this, quarantine, this whole thing is going to end up. I don't know how. I don't know what this is going to look like, what school is going to look like in the future for you. Man. See, this truth didn't mean Joseph could see where the story was going, but he could know he wasn't entirely dependent on himself to get out of this situation. And you're not dependent on yourself to try to get out of this situation. The truth didn't mean that Joseph could easily deal with the things that happened to him. It didn't. This truth didn't mean that he had a reason or explanation for the pain in his life, but he didn't have to figure out things all by himself. And you don't have to figure out things all by yourself either. The same is true for you. Man, hear me. Real life, students, when there's nothing you can do, God is with you. I've been asking myself that. What can I do? What am I supposed to do? And I'm trying to lean into the fact that when there's nothing you can do, God is with you. And actually right now in the comments, write that. God is with me. God is with me. Write it right now. When life hands you shocking news and you don't know what to do, God is with you. Truthfully, you might hear that all the time. You might have been raised in a church, born in a church, and you're like, I hear that all the stinking time, Pastor Ben. There's got to be something else. That seems really cliche. It seems like just one of those things that pastors say, right? But I want you to think about it for a second. And don't let those words lose their meaning. Okay? Sometimes we don't feel those words. We just hear them. I want you to feel those words. God is with you. Not in some abstract, weird way, but he's literally present through the Holy Spirit, God's Spirit who came to earth in the day of Pentecost, and he resides in us, and he works in our world. God is with you. He's next to you when you feel alone. When you and I can truly understand and embrace this truth, it changes things. Let me explain some ways that God is with you. God is with you through your parents. Did you know that? Some of you may not even realize that. God is with you through your parents. God's with you through this church, through this youth group. If you're tuning in, if you've seen this, maybe you're catching this on a replay, God is with you because he brought you right to this moment where you're watching and listening in on this video. God is with you through your provision. If you're able to sit here on a laptop or on a phone inside of a home and your house has a house for its car, then you're living in the top 1% of the world. So guess what? You've been provided for. Our circumstances may not change. Joseph's, they didn't change immediately. Joseph, we're going to see in the future the kind of what he has to go through for him to finally get to that dream that he had. But it changes our perspective and our situation. And maybe more than anything, it can give you hope. Knowing that God is with us may not change our circumstances, but it might change us. It's not going to change our circumstances. We can't control what's going on right now. It might give us hope, though, to keep going, even in the midst of hopeless situations or hopeless circumstances. Might give you hope to keep going, that you're not alone. And real life is here for you. Our small groups are here for you. Coaches, as we come back together, we're going to bring these coaches together, and these coaches are here for you. It's easy to give into the hurt that we've experienced. You can give into it, and it's easy to let fear overwhelm you or our anger consume us. I know. I've been there. We have a lot of reasons to let difficult or sometimes unfair situations get the last word. You have a lot of reasons. You're going to go through a lot of circumstances where it's unfair. We're in it right now. But when we know that God is with us, the uncertainty of life doesn't get the last word. God does. You need to hear that today. When we know that God is with us, the uncertainty of life doesn't get the last word. God does. So what does it mean for you? What does it mean? What does it look like for us? There's no formulas or easy answers. You're probably not looking for formulas anyway. You're like, I've had kind of an easy time with school, Ben. Don't bring me any more formulas, all right? Here are some things you can do. Number one, be real. Just type "be real" right now in the comments so I know you're listening to me. I know you heard me, okay? Be real. That means you have to feel your feelings. You've got to be real about your feelings. I'm telling you this not because I'm so good at it, but because I have been trying to experience that for the last 10 weeks. Trying to be real about my feelings. How is this making me feel? How is what somebody else is doing making me feel? What I'm reading on social media, how is that making me feel? You have to be aware of that and be real with yourself. Not everyone will experience luck in life, but everyone is going to go through tough times. Not everyone is going to have the what am I thinking? Dude Perfect kind of scenario. Those 5 guys who put out a video and it went viral and now they're like multimillionaires. Listen, not everybody's going to have that kind of a situation. That's just a once in a billion lucky, like luck of the draw kind of thing. Don't believe, though, everything you see or read on social media. Amanda and I were looking at this, that right now the stats show that 58% of us, and I'm saying us, 58% of us get our ideas from social media. That's a scary thought. You know how much come from church? 1%. That's sad. That we get our ideas from social media. And by the way, that a lot of those ideas out there are not going to be good for you. They're not healthy for you. All throughout the Bible, people went through difficulties. And there is a lot of accounts of people being real and honest with God. Our job isn't to just suck it up, and act like everything's okay. If we believe God is with us, then we should know God is more than okay with our honest questions and doubts and fears. God is okay, so be real with Him. And then number 2, remind yourself that God is with you. And by the way, remind each other. Remind yourself and each other. Here's a spoiler alert. Things did eventually work out for Joseph. But we know that because we can read the rest of the story in the Bible. But Joseph, when he was in it, when he was stuck in those situations, when he's being thrown in a pit, when he's being sold to somebody and he's now in slavery, Joseph didn't know how this was going to turn out. There were no spoiler alerts for him. In moments when life is... say that again. In moments when life is toughest, that's when this reminder is most important, that God is with you and your story isn't over yet. Most of the greatest opportunities that people have had, they came out of times of crisis. When you look at some people who are the most successful at what they do in life, it came out of a time of crisis. Our life, your life, is going to be full of moments when we don't know what to do. And as you head out, as we close today, we leave this environment, I want you to know that's what small groups are about. That's what ReaLife is about. Okay? That's exactly what we're designed to do as a church, is to be there for you when you don't know what to do. And if parents are listening or watching, I want you to know and understand that ReaLife and being a part of a youth ministry, and students out there, hear me in this. Being a part of a youth ministry is not just so you can come and listen to a bunch of one-liners or something and have a bunch of, play some games or whatever. The point is when you come together in a group of people and you hear what maybe your parents have said, or parents, you're wondering, what's the point of youth ministry? I have to get them out there at 7 o'clock every single Wednesday. The point is that your student might hear something that you've been telling them all along, but they heard it from a coach, they heard it from a youth pastor, they heard it from a leader or from another student, and it hit them, and it clicked, and finally they're headed in the way that you want them to, just because they heard the same thing that you've been telling them over and over. Students, that's the point. That when we gather together and we build community together, you might hear something from a friend that your parents have been telling you, that the youth pastor has been telling you, that a pastor has been telling you, a coach, a soccer coach or a football coach has been telling you, but you heard it from someone else, and boom, your life moves in a different direction. So when you don't know what to do, just know God is with you. In those moments, nobody wants to be alone. That's why God is with you. And so is your small group, and so is ReaLife. I want to give you hope when you feel like it's hopeless. So here's your next step for this week. Okay? Next step. If we get on the end of this coronavirus and COVID-19, All right, you can think about it for right now, or maybe it's in the future, but I want you to think about it. Let me say it this way. I want you to think about it for this week. This is your next step. What could get you through situations when you feel stuck? When you feel stuck, think about a situation right now where you felt stuck. What could get you through that situation? And here's what you do with your next step. I want accountability. The reason why I tell you this is we have a Facebook group, and that group you can go to, sign up for a ReaLife family, and you can post inside of that group your next step. You can either make a video, you can share a little post about it. But when you do this, you build community because someone else might need to hear what you say. Someone else might feel like they're alone and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, Joey felt this way, or Gabe felt this way, or Bree felt this way. I didn't know that they could do this when they felt stuck. Oh man, I can do this now. You see, it builds you. So your next step is, what would help you get through situations when you feel stuck? And then think about this question. If one of your friends were in that situation, what would you say or remind them to do? If one of your friends was in that same situation, if you felt stuck, what would you tell them to do to get unstuck? I want you to think about that and share with me, share with us. Because if we were actually all meeting together, we'd go to a small group and probably talk about this and discuss this. But really, I want you to think about this, tomorrow or the next day. And here's what I'm going to do. If you share something, I didn't know I was going to do this. I'm making it up right now, literally. If you share something, you will be in a drawing for a $25 gift card to Amazon. That's it. If one of you share your next step on the ReaLife group page, then you get a $25 gift card. Boom, you did your next step. That's all you got to do, is share what could help you get through the situation when you feel stuck. And if one of your friends were in that situation, what would you say to them or remind them to do? That's your next step.